You know how they say it takes like 8 years for chewing gum to come out of your system once you've consumed it, like you've accidentally swallowed some chewing gum? Well, that's kind of how I feel about Chelsea's gubbing away to Leeds United at Elland Road in the Premier League. That's right, Leeds 3, Chelsea 1. In what was a stomach-turning performance and result, I feel like this piece of lodged chewing gum is going to stay in my system for a long time. I could even, for example, Sunderland going well this season, and then the nature of their last-minute winner against Chelsea, I think I'll be able to digest that, and that will pass through, at a reasonable speed. But this particular loss to Leeds United in the relegation zone, about to sack their manager Daniel Farke for being a disappointing Farke and losing multiple games in a row. Charity FC come back in full effect, and we're here to pick the bones out of it, dissect it, and guys, hopefully offer you some well-needed football therapy. For this is Football Therapy, and welcome back to the channel with me, your host, Jan. I imagine the vast majority of you listening are Chelsea fans, so I won't say I hope you're doing well, because almost certainly I know you won't be. Now, while this is not the end of the world, it feels like, something close. It feels like some form of apocalypse. Chelsea went away to Leeds, and it was going to be a very tough atmosphere under the lights. Despite in my intro me explaining how they've lost so many games in a row and they're in the relegation zone, they did show a little bit against Man City when they switched to a back five in the latter stages of that game. So for the first time, Daniel Farke continues that trend and starts with a back five. But I think Maresca should have been prepared for it. But to be honest, we can definitely criticise his team selection, but we've absolutely got to look at the players here. This was dismal. By the way, so welcome back to the channel. It's worth mentioning, and I wish it was on a happier or more positive occasion to get into it, but this channel, these videos, the pieces of content I upload daily are now available on, I think, all podcast platforms. Which is great, because many of you, for the, 6+ years I've been doing YouTube, have said, Jan, can you upload this onto podcast platforms? Can I get it on Spotify? Well, you know what? You lucky little so-and-so, mate. You can. I wanted to see if I can get it on Spotify video. I haven't quite worked that out yet. We'll see what happens there. But I've got a distribution service for the moment, so I'm sort of testing it out, and I'm going to upload every daily video onto the distribution service, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, some others. You can get it, you can listen to it in your car even if you don't have YouTube Premium or whatever, and on your runs, when you're in the bath thinking about me, all that stuff. You can now listen to the podcast. It's not a podcast, it's a YouTube channel, but it's kind of got podcast vibes, so you can have that afforded to you, mate. So there you go. So don't stop watching on YouTube, mind. Yes. Don't pull away the views from what is my bread and butter, huh? Make sure you still like and subscribe and watch on YouTube. Just, on the day you think, well, I can't watch it today, just you can switch it on the podcast instead. Alright, mate, I can't put off, I'll thank you for liking and subscribing and commenting, sharing. But I can't put it off any longer. I'm not going to screen share for the moment today. I'm just going to talk about some stats. Opening stat for you that I did not think would be a big problem. I mean, obviously, actually, missing Caicedo is huge. But of course, it took losing this game. Not even drawing, losing convincingly. We got slapped. Yeah, make no mistakes. Make no bones about it. We got slapped by relegation, fodder. And more pertinently, bitter old rivals, Leeds. Yuck. Anyway, without Caicedo, we have a 25% win percentage when he doesn't start in the Premier League. I will repeat, for those of you who did not hear that, Chelsea, when Moises Caicedo does not start a game, have a 25% win percentage. Now that is nothing short of harrowing and concerning. Yeah, man, that's pretty bad. That's super bad, in fact. But, like, in his app, I kind of didn't think, what a naive fool I am. I kind of thought this wasn't going to be that big a problem because Santos is good, Fernandez is good, Asugo was supposed to be back, of course, but we learned that he'll be a few more weeks. He's not ready. Maresca's talking about how Josh Achampong could play in midfield. Gusto and Reece James could play in midfield. We'll speak about Josh in a moment. But to have such a really, really, really poor win percentage in the absence of Moy is hugely concerning. And of course, the likes of Lavia is still out. So yeah, we go away to Elland Road. As I'm speaking to you, I'm looking at the SofaScore ratings, and they are really... There's greens all over the Leeds team, and they were great. And absolute stinky performances all over the pitch for Chelsea. The entire back line was bad. Cucurella, who's obviously such a good operator when on form, but maybe he suffered from the team around him. Benoit Badiashile coming into the team, bad. Tosin coming into the team, oh my word, we'll speak about that. Trev Chalobah, to be fair to Trev, he's been playing well, and he's been playing well sort of out of position as a left centre-back. He's been moved position here, not even to right centre-back, but to the right back. So, with some new players around him. So I'd like to not give him a pass because I don't think he was great still, but I do want to show a little bit of sympathy for Trevo Chalobah. I tell you what, mate, we are through the looking glass now because I want to show and demonstrate a great deal of sympathy for goalkeeper Robert Sanchez, who has been in good form, and I don't think he did anything wrong in this game, and all he had to do is just watch an absolute colossal... How do I say what I want to say without swearing? Sugar show in front of him. You can fill in the blanks, my friends. And yeah, I felt bad for him because he was like fuming at the defenders and what was going on and no closing down. And I was like, yeah, I feel your pain, bro. I feel sympathy for you. So that was the back line and goalkeeper. We saw Santos and Fernandez in the midfield pivot. And by the way, guys, it's probably worth mentioning, in my match preview, I called Tosin and Benoit Badiashile. I didn't say I wanted it necessarily, but I called it. Many of you went, oh, no, not Tosin in the comments. Appropriately and correctly, might I add. But that's who I had. I did have Gusto starting. So I didn't have Chalobah. I had Cucurella and Gusto. I pretty much nailed a lot of it. I did think Palmer would start, and I think he should have started in hindsight. Pedro Neto as well. We needed the grown-ups on the pitch. We're going to have a big conversation today, guys, spoiler, about Joao Pedro as well as Tosin Adarabioyo. And by the way, it is Tosin Adarabioyo, not Adarabio. That's a different name that commentators keep saying. And, I know he's been taking a lot of flack, but you can say the guy's name right. Yeah, I got no qualms starting Santos and Fernandez. I got no qualms starting Delap. Gittins started on the left. Kind of did make sense, actually, because you'll need more 1v1 dribbling rather than running into space. Makes sense. And to his credit, he did get an assist. And if you look at the SofaScore rating, he got 7.5 rating, a strong green. Not one player got close. The second highest was a 6.8 and then a yellow. And of course, loads of oranges. Really poor performances. So it's Delap, it was Gittins on the left, Estevao on the right, and Joao Pedro in the 10. No Cole Palmer, despite being fit to start, in inverted commas, for the third game in a row. We'll speak about the changes, but we did see Malo Gusto, Pedro Neto, Cole Palmer, Garnacho, and Guiu. It was the halftime changes of Gusto and Pedro Neto sort of made changes. Of course, Pedro Neto came on, scored a goal. He also got a 7.6 rating, like Gittins is 7.5. But yeah, it was bringing on ultimately, guys, yeah, it was bringing on a grown-up in a situation where you had a bunch of frightened children. Now, in terms of the lineup criticism, he shouldn't have started Estevao. We saw, and I'm not going to dig out Estevao at all because he's a child, but we saw why this is not right, because he's 18. It's the latest of late kickoffs at Elland Road under the lights, 8:15. This is why I didn't do a reaction yesterday, partly because I was fuming and it was late and I was just like, I ended up taking loads of different sleeping pills to get to sleep because I just had this sort of demise of Chelsea fermenting in my brain and not letting me going to sweet sleep. Let me go. Yeah, Joao, man. Let's start with the kid then. Obviously amazingly talented, but like, the atmosphere, the rivalry, he got a petulant yellow card where he just kicked, I think, was it Dominic Calvert-Lewin? I can't remember who it was, but he just kicks the back of his ankle, and I was thinking, what are you doing, lad? He clearly got frustrated, the atmosphere got to him. Look, he scored in high-profile games, but this was like Chelsea versus Leeds under the lights. You don't start Joao here. You start Pedro Neto, the big boy who knows how to deal with it. And what's testament to that is he came off the bench, scored a goal, pretty soon after. It was like, right, come on, you silly sods. But it was too little too late. And actually, there was way too much dysfunction around the team. In terms of so it's a 3-5-2 from Farke. Nemecha, the striker who keeps scoring. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who scored against us. Tanaka, who scored an absolute weldy. Biol, the defender, scoring his first ever goal for Leeds. Chelsea have got a knack of that, haven't we? Giving opposition players their first ever senior goal. This is Charity FC in full effect. Giving this geezer I've never heard of before his first goal. Giving Daniel Farke a job, essentially. I mean, they scored very early on, that centre-back in the 6th minute. Both goals were quite good, I think. The Tanaka goal was great. The Dominic Calvert-Lewin goal was pretty much a Tosin assist, which, we will get to. And, of course, Pedro Neto scored at the 50th minute to make it 2-1. So, the beginning of the second half, it was 2-1. And I thought, right, I'm only going to celebrate if you actually come back and win this. And, in fact, they did the opposite. We got slapped. Statistically, Chelsea had a lot of the ball, as you'd expect. Nearly... this is what I mean by slapped. Yeah, they might have had, so Leeds may have had 29%, less than 30% possession at home, but they had about 3 times the expected goals than us. They generated 3 times as much, and they outshot us. Embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. So, in terms of the timeline, it's pretty harrowing. They score on the 6th minute. Joao, by the 39th minute, is kicking opposition players because he's frustrated and emotional. And then they score again at the end of the half. So the best time to score, beginning and end of the half for Leeds. And we go into half-time. And the Tanaka goal is great. 2-0 down. And I'm thinking, well, this is awful. We've got to make loads of changes. They've disrespected Leeds here. They've underestimated them. They played big games, Barcelona and Arsenal. And this is, just absolute textbook. Get up for the big games, can't do these games where they propose a different kind of threat. Maresca, to his credit, does say this. He always warns this is a different kind of game and it will be just as hard in a different way. But it's got to be up to him as well for the players he put out there. I mean, the only positive could be that he learns that he needs to say some very sorry stuff to Josh Achampong. And he needs to bench Uncle Tosin. We'll speak about that in a bit more detail in just a moment. So Joao comes off at halftime, which is the correct decision for Neto. Badiashile comes off, which, could have been Tosin, should have been Tosin probably, but, not that Badiashile or anyone in the back line did anything good. And he brings on Gusto. Essentially what that does is that moves Chalobah back over to the spot where he's been playing well at left centre-back. And it brings on Gusto, who inverts into the midfield a lot, to be fair. But that, in a sense of it, is sort of starting right-back role, and then Tosin plays the right centre-back role. I say he plays it, he sort of massacres it. He massacres the right centre-back role. He had an absolute mare. So Gittins, who started slow, did, to his credit, get the assist for Pedro Neto, and I actually think... I think he was the sort of appropriate profile to start. Look, Garnacho looked bright when he came on, to be honest, but so... Those guys are sort of fine. I don't really want to dig out. I don't want to... The players that come away here fine are... I'm going to say Rob Sanchez, despite eating 3 goals, because it's not his fault. I'm going to say Jamie Gittins, Pedro Neto for linking for the goal. I'll give it maybe Garnacho, and then I won't particularly dig out Santos and Fernandez, though I do think it was a wet midfield. I think it was wet. And the rest of them, man... Stinky. Not good at all. So we see the return of Cole Palmer for Liam Delap. Now, I think this is the incorrect decision. I think it should be Cole Palmer straight swap for Joao Pedro. What we end up seeing is Delap coming off, of course, which sees Joao go into the striker role and Cole play behind him. Cole looks like a player that hasn't played in 2 months or over 2 months and has been asked to save a game for Chelsea with players that probably he's not really settled with yet at all. And a couple of changes from Leeds, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets the easiest goal he'll ever score for an absolute howler moment from Tosin Adarabioyo. Now, we're 2 goals down at 72 minutes. Final roll of the dice. Maresca brings on Mark Guew for Santos, which I guess pushes Joao. And when we've got who's playing midfield now? Enzo Fernandez, I suppose Gusto's inverting, and Joao Pedro's probably helping out a little bit more. But they make changes and see it out, and we really don't get a sniff at all, to be honest. No threat of even chipping one back, let alone an equaliser, and you can forget totally about a winner. So what went wrong? Well, Moresca has to take blame, absolutely, because, I mean... So, if I'm a manager, I'd take the blame as well, because I started Badiashile and Tosin, so yes, thank goodness I'm not managing Chelsea, but Maresca is, and he did start them. Look, Benoit has had good moments for Chelsea. These guys should have been able to play against Leeds. You look at Tosin, he was good for us in the Conference League, he's a free transfer. I said it on my Instagram yesterday, yesterday he looked like the most expensive free transfer of all time, costing Chelsea... Start with him. He's got to ride the bench. You know, he can play against your League 2 teams in the FA Cup. Look, firstly, he's a really good guy in the dressing room. I know that sounds really, really lame thing to say, but this guy is a person. He's 27, 28. He's a serious guy. You know, Palmer loves him. Apparently, he's a really good support guy for Palmer. He can support him from the bench, man. Don't abuse Tosin. I mean, I'm sure he's a big boy. He's a big man. He can deal with any silly like social media abuse. Even though I'm sure the abhorrent abuse is coming his way because that's the age we live in. But I think he's strong-minded and strong character and can sort of ride that. But yes, the performance is simply not good enough. We judge him's performance here. Meritocracy, and that was a howler. Look, the whole team was poor, but it starts at the back. And him and Benoit, and yes, let's say it. Like Maresca keeps waxing lyrical about Josh Jampong. I mean, he's not necessarily been flawless, but when we watch him, he plays very well often. Maybe he okay, let's try and play devil's advocate a little bit. Maresca saw this coming to a degree, the Ellen Road under the lights thing. You know, so in that case, don't start Estevao. I know Pedro Neto's overplayed. But even Garnacho on the right wing, he's fully rested. Or Cole Palmer on the right wing, who's done that a lot in his career, yeah? Cole Palmer on the right wing. Don't start 18-year-old, Estevao who's played a lot, who's, shown these like sort of like moments of lack of physicality in a game like this. That was a big, big error. So maybe he was thinking, okay, well, at the back, we've got to be solid. We can afford to be a bit more risky up top, so I'll start Estevao, but I won't start teenager Joshua Champong away at Ellen Road against the back 5 system. Maybe he's thinking that, and that's me being very kind to the Chelsea manager. But what he can think from now on, after seeing this, is, I love Josh, I'm in love with Josh, that he kept saying. Well, show it, mate. Show your lover. I probably shouldn't say that, doesn't sound right. That he will get time over Tosin. Because that was a horror show. You can't throw Tosin back in. He didn't offer this seniority and leadership in a hard away game. He sort of took Chelsea down from the inside. It wasn't just him. But he was a sort of highlights package of what was going wrong. Again, I don't really want to dig out Santos and Enzo in the midfield. Enzo's been playing a lot. Santos didn't do anything howlery. But it was dysfunction. And then one player we need to highlight, guys, is Joao Pedro. He's been awful, especially off the ball. I don't know what he's doing in training. Maybe he's doing something good in training and he's just really fit and available, so Moresca thinks, yeah, play him. But how he survived 90 minutes here as well. His off-the-ball work, and look, let's just for a moment pause how he's not scoring, how he's not assisting, and hasn't been for a long time. Which, lest we forget, he's an attacker. He's not doing that. But if you think, all right, well, he's just the quintessential, he's doing a Bobby Firmino defensive masterclass false 9. He's not doing that, guys. His off-the-ball work is nothing, short of turgid sewage. It's been like that for a few games, and it was, personified or highlighted or reached its peak in this game. I can't believe Delap came off from, because Delap at least had a few good moments as a striker. And, especially, we've seen Joao Pedro behind Delap. It doesn't work, dude. It doesn't work. And I've had enough. It should have been Cole Palmer starting. I don't care if he's, needs to get 30 minutes off the bench before he starts. If he's been fit to start for 3 games, you start him here. Even if you put him on the right wing over Estevao, I know Maresca's talked about how he didn't see him as a right winger, but I'm sure he's played him there once or twice, and he knows that he's done that loads in the Prem. I'll say it again, both Gittins and Garnacho are rested. Garnacho's played loads on the right for Man United. Just do that and then bring off an Estevao against tired legs. So by 30 minutes, he's not kicking opposition players and getting yellows out of frustration. So, I don't know, man. For me, huge red flags next to Joao, Pedro, and of course Tosin. Disappointing, and I suppose we should speak about the bigger picture here, shouldn't we? Of course Arsenal won. They got a plus 20 goal difference, Arsenal, to our plus 10. Arsenal won, and they are, what are they? They are 5 points clear still of Man City in second, Arsenal. They, of course, won their game 2-0, comfortably. Professional performance. Aston Villa won. They've gone 3 points clear of Chelsea, who are now in fourth. So we are 9 points off the top. We are, if you had any suspicions, let them die. We are not in a title race. I never said we were, and I said this is too soon. I said that I was concerned. This is what I've said on social media, and indeed both my YouTube channels. I, as a Chelsea fan, have been concerned about Man City's worrying form and defence, because it's up to them to stop Arsenal. And if I really look down deep inside and rip out the Chelsea fan, I could see objectively why it would be good for Arsenal to win the league, for the Premier League's complexion. But as a Chelsea fan, it repels me, of course. So I would like Man City to buck their ideas up and do it, because it's not going to be Chelsea. Chelsea will be in a top 4 race, like we suspected at the beginning of the season. It's can you again qualify for the Champions League, but this time you're not doing it while balancing Conference League football. This time you're doing it while balancing Champions League football. That's the level up test. I want us to get to 75 or above points. I'm starting to worry about that projected total, especially when you're losing these games. But, look, just one final sobering highlight to make you feel sick. By the way, if Manchester United win tonight, they go level on points with us. Sickening. And currently, as things stand, we are 3 points off 10th. For those of you in the back who did not hear, Chelsea currently are 3 points off 10th place. That's one result of 10th. One result of 10th place. Chelsea are one result of 10th place. 10th. Double digits. So yes, it just goes to show. Look, despite this sickening situation, we are a good team at times. Just when we get up for it, basically. And, obviously these results can't happen if you're going to ever challenge for Premier League. So, what are the facts? We're going to have to take a step back. Chelsea remain the youngest team in the Premier League. The manager is in his second season of a club in his career. Everyone's kind of green. And, just not ready to win a Premier League title. They will get better. They've also demonstrated how they can play well against good teams, whether that's your PSGs, your Barcelonas, and indeed your Arsenals and your Liverpools. But it's these moments, in these atmospheres, in these situations where the players need to grow up and buck up, and indeed the manager, because it's up to the manager to know what his players are and aren't capable of, and, that cannot happen again. And look, how does that game go? Let's just say this. If that game has Reece James starting, let's just say Reece James and Caicedo are in the midfield, Gusto right back, Palmer's starting, who's fit, we win that game. But, shoulda, woulda, coulda, ifs and buts. The season is the season. You will rotate, you will rest players, you have injuries. Maybe Colwell's obviously available. That's the only positive thing. We've got players coming back like Colwell and Lavia to make us better eventually one day. And indeed, players like Kenda and Demman arriving. Still, it's a horror show. So I ask you for your thoughts, guys. Please do leave them down in the comment section. Thank you for liking and subscribing. A little reminder that this is available on all streaming podcast platforms. If you are listening on Spotify, please do give me a 5-star rate. In fact, Apple Podcasts as well. Whatever you're listening on, let's try and support Dating, friends, yeah? Like, subscribe, 5-star, share. Go to your uncle, your sister-in-law, your friend's friend. Can you just quickly give 5-star rating to my favourite content creator, Jan's podcast? Because we'll see what happens. It might grow on the podcast platforms. That would be nice. And hopefully, from now on, it'll be more positive and we'll never lose a football game again. Of course, daily content here on the channel. Usually Chelsea news that might be a bit different in just audio format, but who knows? Hopefully still good. Right. Let's never speak of this again. Take care of yourselves. Peace.